Right then, this is the instant match reaction from Singapore, and I'm just on my balcony. I've just got back from the game, and when I say that I am a sweaty mess, this is a new top that I've just put on because I've just been absolutely humping some aircon. So, look, Newcastle United lost the game. That's what we didn't want to do tonight, especially with everything going on with the transfer window, which we'll touch on in a second. But how did the game go? Well, I think generally speaking, we'll touch on each half in a second. I think generally speaking, Newcastle United were better than I expected. Before we went into this game, I did say and I did think Arsenal have been over here more days. They've played AC Milan. They've climatised a little bit more. Newcastle have been thrown in. I think we arrived on Friday morning, Thursday night. Lots of fun events, as you've seen on my last video. If you haven't seen it, please go and check it out. Elange, Barnes, everybody in the bar. So lots going on for the players. Charity events as well that weren't as documented. And they've been thrown in a humid stadium. The roof was closed, which I think that's a good thing and also a bad thing. It was weird for me as a fan. You don't often see that in England, the roof closed. And I thought Newcastle started okay. I thought first half, again, let's touch on it. Elange, great to see him get a goal. It was a great move down the right-hand side. Bit of a lucky finish. But again, we started well. Newcastle United's press really impressed me. More than what I expected. Probably what I would call one proper game into pre-season. Celtic was a test, but it didn't really feel like it was the right time, the Celtic game, in my opinion. That's not me making excuses. Just after the lads were whitewater rafting 24 hours before, that felt a bit of a mismatch in terms of the intensity of a Scottish team who were a week and a half away from their season starting. This one, again, started really, really strong. I thought the likes of Anthony Gordon, Asula, who against Celtic had a point to prove in his press. Gordon was good in the press. And I thought we started well. I thought there was some really good performances in the first half, especially. I thought Kieran Trippier, rolling back the years, if you like, and I don't want to talk about him as if he's old. He's not. I mean, he's getting to that latter point of his career, but that can only be good for us. If Kieran Trippier is going to stay with his football club, not only for his leadership, but the way that he played on the pitch today, very early doors in pre-season, it was good. It was really promising. Murphy at left-back, look, lots of people are going to talk about his own goal, which I'll touch on the goals individually in a second. I thought he looked okay. He is being thrown in against Saka, one of the best wingers in the Premier League. It's a big test for the kid. I thought he did well against Celtic, and I think he looks a confident boy. The own goal, I haven't watched it back on a replay yet, but I love to see the players dusting him off and telling him to get on with it. And I thought he did. I thought about 5 minutes after he made a good tackle on Saka, where he tracked him, and I really hope he brushed that one off, because we all make mistakes. God, even when I played football at a much, much worse level, I made mistakes. This is what pre-season's about. Nick Pope made one last week, and he's probably dusted that one off because he would rather make them now. And Murphy is still learning. But generally speaking, I think we've got a talent there. And that was one I was keeping an eye on. I thought Jamal Lascelles played okay. I think Jamal Lascelles looks to me like a player who's got a point to prove. I thought, their goals were a little bit sloppy. Bruno losing the ball from a short pass from Elanga. It wasn't glamorous. Yes, it was a nice finish. Nick Pope, I thought, had no chance. And then obviously the own goal. But I thought Newcastle, for large spells of the first half, I would probably argue with a better team. And I thought we impressed in areas. Like I say, Gordon was good. Elanga, defensive work still to do there for me. And I talked about Elanga when we signed him, that his defensive stats did not suit Eddie Howe. Everything else I thought did. Lots of work for him to do there. We go in at half-time. Again, we do have to always consider it a pre-season, and me included, especially against a team like Arsenal. You forget about that and you get caught up in the match. You want to see your team win. So second half comes, and look, especially all of the very loud, very rowdy Asian Newcastle fans that we were in the corner. Look, I'll touch on it more, probably on my full match vlog, so make sure you do check that out. If you're new around here, by the way, of course, do me a little favour. Whack that subscribe button, give us a comment, let us know what you thought about this friendly game, and follow Black and White Banter for the ride over to Korea and the rest of pre-season. But the Asian fans were great for us. Yes, it was mainly Arsenal today. It was massively Arsenal today, even walking around the stadium. But I expected that because Arsenal have had a lot more success than Newcastle United have in the last 20 years. Globally supported club. And yeah, that's how it felt going into the stadium. But we still had our corner. I would probably say the Newcastle fans were louder. Maybe being biased as I'm sat with them. But hey, look, second half came. Eddie Howe made the changes we expected to make. And I just thought we never really got going properly in the second half for large spells. And there were lots of performances there that highlighted exactly what every single Newcastle fan thinks right now of this football club. This transfer window has simply not been good enough. Matt Target at left back looked like, for me, very early days in pre-season. It's a humid thing. He hasn't played much football for Newcastle, so I hate being harsh on either one of our footballers, but he looked like a fish out of water. Yes, people might say that Murphy in the first half was struggling, but he's a youngster who looks like he's got a lot of confidence. Matt Target looked like he should not have been out there. Other performances in the second half, obviously Jacob Murphy, great to see him come in and get a goal. The midfield totally changed. Great to see Joelinton chucking about young kids. He does not mess about, whether it's a competitive match or a pre-season friendly. Joelinton lets you know he's there. Asula obviously had to come off because Newcastle United right now are very short on strikers, which I'll touch on in a second. But I just thought we never really got going in that second half. And the biggest disappointment for me from that was Sven Botman. He came off injured after 20 minutes, pointing to his groin. I am hearing on social media since I've left the stadium that it's not as bad as first worried, that it's just sort of a precautionary, something doesn't feel right, I need to come off. But if this is going to continue happening, Sven Botman is a Rolls Royce of a defender, and I've said that from day one because he's been that good for us when he first signed for us. But I said that we might get away with having 5 centre-backs in Lascelles, Kraft, Byrne, Shea and Botman. You take Botman out the picture if his injuries continue, and that's not the case. And it puts even more pressure on what has been an awful transfer window, really. The penalty, Joelinton, doing what Joelinton does. I haven't watched it back. I've heard that he shouldn't have even put his hands or whatever he did anywhere. So I'll have to see that one again. But look, Newcastle losing narrowly 3-2 to an Arsenal team, much stronger than us in terms of squad, is not a bad start to pre-season, particularly with Arsenal being here for 3, 4, 5 days longer than us in Singapore, where, as I'm recording this video on this balcony, it is hot as shit. But all it highlights to me, that second half especially, is the frustration in this transfer window, and I will scream that from the rooftops. And I passionately said in the pub before and during the game, if Alexander Isak is watching at home, I hope he's shocked at how well in the first half, especially what Newcastle played. But look, if you don't want to play for the club, don't play for the club. If anyone wants to make an offer for you, get that agent to sort it quickly. Because if you owe one thing to Newcastle, Alexander, if you're watching this, you owe us to get some money for you quickly so we can invest in that squad. And look, Ruddy going up as goalkeeper replacement in the second half to save that penalty tells me everything. A certain Ruddy, who has not played a competitive game for how many years, he's been modelling dressing gowns for Newcastle since he signed for us. He's the one coming on because we haven't got Trafford. We haven't got, oh God, the list could go on. We didn't get Pedro. We didn't get Wisse as it stands right now. It's just been awful. I feel so sorry for Eddie Howe, but he's working with what he's got. And if this Isak saga is to continue in the next couple of weeks, we need to squash that. It's either a sale or you put your arm around him, you have a chat with him and you say, look, Alexander, this Newcastle team that has made you what the player you are, you've got to stay because no one is coming in with a bid and we need to squash this one and move on and sign other players because if we're going to sell Isak with a week and a half to go of the window, our season is already looking difficult with the squad we've got. It's looking screwed. And tonight's match was a good run out. I was really impressed. Good press. Nice to see Elanga on the pitch. Trippier, Gordon looking quite sharp. Asula trying to impress. Bruno looks a totally different Bruno to last season where he came back quite overweight, being honest. Tonali, lots of positives, but it just highlighted to me how thin on the ground this squad is, and that's going into a pre-season where you're changing teams at half-time. Imagine going into a season with Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup and Premier League. Something needs to happen soon, and this Alexander Isak saga, which is boring every single Newcastle fan, needs to end. Newcastle fans, though, let us know your thoughts on that Arsenal game. There will be a full match vlog that involves, you name it, from drinking by the waterfront with the Singapore mags all the way through to speaking to fans outside. So if you're not already, subscribe to Black and White Banter, get us across all social media, and I will see you, probably next time I'll see you, might be on a video with John Beresford, or not, I'll see you over in South Korea. As always, though, we won game and we've lost, but keep the faith. How are you, lads?